All right, so we have some weekend recaps to get into, pitchers, hitters, lineups I have the most questions about, and a few streamers along the way. I'll answer your questions as well. So without wasting too much time, we're going to dive right into one guy that I obviously I think we just have to get out of the way, the whole Will Smith situation. I'm not sure what's happening there. So let's go ahead and share the screen. Excuse me. Here we go. So Will Smith, he got the save last night, and the reason why it's notable is because of the fact that Leclerc should have been available. He hadn't pitched since opening day. And then we see Smith coming in, throwing a little hotter than usual. Maybe he was amped up. He got 1.3 on the fastball, zero point 0.8 on the slider. So the velocity is there. The role is for the taking, I believe. I'm not a huge Leclerc guy. I don't think Leclerc is going to be able to hold on to that role long term anyway, especially if you saw earlier this season, excuse me, not spring. I'm trying to get spring training out of my head. Leclerc's velocity was way down too, and he just didn't seem like himself. So we'll see how that turns out. But all things considered, Will Smith is worth mentioning. The next player we're going to talk about is let's jump over to Kodei Senga. Sorry, excuse me, Kodei Senga, and we're going to share this tab now. And with Senga, I'm just showing my Twitter feed because I tweeted about him. I found him very intriguing. These are strikeouts. You can watch the strikeouts while I talk. But Senga had himself a game. He had 8 strikeouts. The Marlins, let him out of a bit of a jam. But that fork ball, the ghost pitch, whatever you want to call it, was on point. And these are the strikeouts. All 8 of his strikeouts were on that pitch. Now pitch it on that pitch. But with that said, you got to be careful to realize it is the Marlins. So it is what it is. I mean, it's how much more do you really expect from the Marlins? You know what I mean? So we're in watch mode here, but look at the numbers. He averaged 98 on the fastball, almost 97. Or sorry, he averaged 96.8, almost 97 on the fastball. Feature a 4-pitch mix, throwing at least each of them 14% of the time, which tells you that it's a true 4-pitch mix he's attacking hitters with. And he had a 34% strike CSW rate, which is called plus swinging strike rate. Jeez, I can't get the words out today. He put it all together. It was the Marlins, though. I don't know how much we could buy into it, but with that said, everything looks really good, and I like what we're seeing here. The next player we're going to jump over to is going to be Chris Bassett. At what point do we get concerned about Chris Bassett? Bassett, his velocity was down all spring. He threw like 30 pitches yesterday. Realistically, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pitches yesterday. Velocities are way down over here, as you can see, all highlighted through up in here. He got hit hard. He allowed 10 balls over 100 miles per hour to be hit on him. Not all of them were home runs or anything, but they were all hard hit balls. That is too much hard contact for a guy who can't barely throw 92. Yesterday, he even went sub 90 on a couple of his fastball sinkers. So Bassett, I do have some concerns about. There's some red flags here. Maybe he's going to be a buy low candidate. Maybe somebody who could bounce back. But the fact that the velocity was down headed into the season, it's still down. So maybe still building up. But Bassett also just has question marks. I mean, does he even know what he wants to do? He threw I mentioned 6 or 7 different pitches yesterday. That's too much. I think he's going to need to figure it out. I'm sure he will. He's a veteran pitcher, but that's part of it. What is he, like 34, 35 years old? So he's not young anymore. That could be part of the issue here, is that Bassett is just aging out and he has to learn how to be a pitcher more than a thrower. And I don't know. I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt. There's a track record there. Good team context. Just something I'm watching very closely. The next guy we're going to talk about here is going to be our boy. He's an industry favorite right now. He's the hot topics. Of course, I'm sorry, I'm beating a dead horse, but I want to talk about just how much Brendan Donovan has changed his approach early on in the season. We are talking a very early look here, but it's a drastic night and day difference in approach. We talked about Donovan's approach a couple times. I'm sure you heard it on your favorite podcast, your favorite show, but Donovan, it's mind blowing, and you can hear it. I'm at a loss for words because look at the differences here. You see them line up next to each other. If you can, it might be hard to see on YouTube right now, but the pull rate 61.5% compared to 35.5% last year. Ground ball rate 36.5 compared to 52.8. So you're seeing him elevate the ball more already and pull the ball more. Fly ball rate 50% compared to 11.3%. Where I'm very intrigued by is that was the pull fly ball rate. The pull fly balls was 50% of his pull his fly balls are pulled in the air right now. and compared to 11.3 last year. So there's a clear indication that that approach is what he is going for, and it's working. His swing rate is up just about 10 points, 10% from 46.2% compared to 37.8. The O swing is also up, which usually is not a great thing, but it's even while being up because he's being more aggressive. Donovan is still better than league average. Same thing with the swinging strike rate. The swinging strike rate is up over 2%. However, it comes with, it's still way above league average. So he's doing all this and not walking at all. And last year, this is a guy who had a 12.8% walk rate. Donovan had a 12.8% walk rate, 0 walks through his first 4 games. And it's because he's just being way more aggressive. And it's working. The power is going to be there as long as this approach sticks. And he has such a good hit tool. This is also his contact rates are still really solid. And I believe it was 93% was the contact rate for Donovan. So he's still doing all this, being uber aggressive while being able to make really strong contact. And that's a skill set of his that, pairing it all together, I think we can get 20 home runs here. And it's so weird to say because I think he had like 5 last year. Donovan is just so intriguing because we heard about it, but we're seeing it put in motion right now. And not just put in motion, but like it's not just being put in motion, but you're seeing it in the numbers now. The numbers are starting to come around. And again, very early. So these are going to change drastically just over the next few games. But this early indication just has me very excited for him. But a guy that I'm not so excited for, that was, having a big spring. Everybody was in on him. It's still early. You can't say you're out. You shouldn't be out just yet. But we have to talk about Jared Kelnick here. Because Kelnick, through his 4 games, 14 plate appearances, very small. But here we go again. 42.9% strikeout rate. He's almost striking out half of his plate appearances right now. Again, too early to be overly concerned, but considering his track record at the major league level, yes, he had a strong spring, but that's what it was. It was a spring training against minor league pitching. We know he crushes minor league pitching. He did have a couple tough matchups here against Cleveland, but with that said, we're still talking about almost a 50% strikeout rate early on. We are not overreacting to 14 plate appearances. What we are doing is making a note of it and keeping it, top of mind. Let's scroll down and look at this profile a little bit too, because I'm sure there's more to it. I purposely didn't break them down until I got on the stream today, just because I wanted to see if there's anything there. He is not pulling the ball much. I'm surprised considering, the shift ban. I figured he might try to. Maybe I know he's not trying to pull as much either. He's trying to take what's given to him. But Kelnick, ground ball rate's kind of up. It's like ground ball, fly balls, no line drives. That's going to hurt any type of batting average. Let's look at the plate discipline though, because that's where I'm intrigued. Because we still have the same chase rate, less swinging strike rate. So he's not swinging strikes a whole lot. His swing rate is way down. The strikeouts could be partially due to Kelnick being overly patient, because what you're seeing here are the contact rates way up. Contact rates are up 7% on the overall contact rate. His Z contact, which is zone contact, is up almost 10 full percentage points. And the O contact, the contact on pitches outside the zone is up just about 10 percentage points as well. So Kelnick is making more contact and less swing and miss in terms of swinging strikes. However, he's being very patient, and that passive approach, we're talking 10% less swing rate right now. That's leading to some strikeouts. He's getting pitchers are just striking him out, and but at least that's where it becomes something that's a little more encouraging. Kelnick isn't swinging and missing. He's improved on that so far early on. It's been a bit of a passivity issue. And that's why you can't just look at the number and be like, oh, here we go, because maybe he can be a little more aggressive and fix that, or maybe not. It's a lot because we haven't seen him put together yet. It's hard to say he's going to all of a sudden. And you can see I'm kind of running through these. It's because, I actually have something to do, so it's going to be a quick stream today. But I wanted to get one out. Another name I want to talk about is going to be Justin Steele of the Cubs. And the reason why I want to talk about him, he was a guy that, popular sleeper pick, a guy that kind of started falling because Wesneski was getting all the love, and Wesneski's a good pitcher. But Justin Steele had this breakout in the second half that got it was the beginning of a breakout, where it appeared to be a breakout. We saw all the numbers spike in the right direction, and it came off of this tangible change in a pitch mix, which he has carried over. And I think that's what's worth mentioning here today. You see the slider and the four-seamer are still the two most thrown pitches. He barely threw the curveball. We're talking 4 other pitches total. 84 pitches, 80 of them were fastballs and sliders. And the reason why that's significant is because a lot of pitchers have a hard time succeeding with 2 pitches. So to say Steele will be one of those guys that will is a little premature. However, if he can get through 5 innings, pretty solid with 2 pitches, I would think. But the fact that he has the potential for more here, it's always nice knowing, like, hey, he has that 5-pitch arsenal. but he depends on these two. And I'm guessing if these don't work, then maybe he'll adapt. We did see, the increased velocity on the curveball, increased spin rate on the curveball, no real movement change, less horizontal break, which you would think it'd be more break anyway. But still succeeding with the 2-pitch mix, and that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that Steele made that change, saw success, carried that change over, and he had success in his first outing. It was against the Brewers, which against lefties, they platoon players like Brosseau and Luke Voigt and stuff. So it's not the strongest lineup. However, Steele is going to be better than a streamer. In 12 teamers, he's probably a streamer, but ultimately, I think what we see is I think we're going to get a solid year out of him if you buy into what we saw in the second half, and if you buy into the fact that it carried over. And the velocities are fine. It's all within normal outcomes here. Anybody else? Oh, so let's talk about some lineups, shall we? This is what I'm known for. This is my thing. So we're looking at lineups. Oh, not scrolling down. We are right here. Let's get it above my head. Baseball Reference. Just looking at we'll talk about if they dropped lineup today. They have not yet, from what I'm seeing. But Tampa Bay, the Rays. The reason why I want to bring this lineup up is because I noticed a couple things. One, if you look at the lefty against lefties, this is what you're getting. You're getting Margot, Hanley Ramirez, Harold Ramirez. Siri plays no matter what. That's something we're going to talk about in a little bit here. And the reason why I'm bringing these two guys up here, Margot and Ramirez, and even Paredes, who does move up against lefties, which is nice. It's good to see him move up against lefties because Paredes can end up getting more plate appearances in that respect. However, we haven't seen enough lineups yet, because if we look at just the righty lineups, there's no Paredes, there's no Margot, there's no Ramirez. Luke Raley, a guy who had a really strong spring, is a guy that they actually pinch hit for, I think, Ramirez the other day. You have not Nate Lowe. You have Brandon Lau, and you have Josh Lowe. Lowe was kept up. Lowe started against a righty, and yesterday, Lowe actually pinch hit for Margot. So I'm watching this one very closely, because as of right now, from the early indications, it looks like it could be a Margot Lowe platoon, but I could see Siri getting a day off today, which throws all of this out the window, because if Siri gets a day off after playing 3 straight, you'll probably see Lowe and Margot in lineup. But you get my point. I think Lowe's going to play against righties. Margot might sit against some righties and play against lefties. Paredes, I'd be surprised if he sat versus all the righties. I feel like, but at the end of the day, they did sit him against the one righty, and that lineup is not up yet, and they are facing a righty today, and it's Johnny Cueto. So it's one of those softer tossing righties. They shouldn't sit Paredes against him, but maybe Paredes sits against tougher righties, though. However, it is very early. I don't want to overreact. It's just these are the things I am keeping tabs on, and these are things that I focus on in the content. So I appreciate those who are hanging out. Obviously, subscribe goes a long way. I do these live streams 2 to 3 times a week. And for those listening on the podcast, it's youtube.com/@GTE Fantasy, where you can see all the visuals. Everything I'm talking, I'm actually visually showing people that are watching. So there's that. So check that out. Subscribe. It goes a long way. It's appreciated. Now let's move on. I'm not one for self-promotion overly too much, but although one more self-promotion, the Patreon, of course, patreon.com/GTE Fantasy, where all the stuff I'm talking about, I do in written form, much more in depth, and pretty much team by team almost every day. The Savant stuff I've been doing every day. Actually, have to finish it up after we're done here with the stream. But the next lineup I brought up is the Diamondbacks. I can't think, dude. So the Diamondbacks versus, let's look at lefties. Lefty lineups, you'll notice Alec Thomas has sat one game. He sat this game, and McCarthy sat the other. McCarthy and Thomas batting 9th in these lineups. McCarthy overall batting like 7th. But the reason why I brought this up is because you have Kyle Lewis leading off, so he's in a platoon, and then you have Longoria in here, so he's on the weak side of a platoon. So Kyle Lewis and Longoria are going to need injuries for those platoons to actually be more than that, but these seem to be the platoon guys. Carroll, obviously not a platoon. He's played every game. And then you have against, so we take lefties out of the equation. You look at just righties, and these are your starters against right-handed pitching. You have Josh Rojas leading off, which was something they showed towards the end of spring training, which people weren't really buying into. And I'm like, it's probably going to happen, but I think Carroll's going to hit his way up sooner than later. Carroll's batting 5th against righties, and you saw that Carroll slots lower against lefties, where he slotted 6th, but then 7th on opening day. So that's what it was. But yeah, so you have him slotting, and then Lourdes Gurriel Jr., just quietly solid, hitting for good average. Last I checked, I mean, it's early on, obviously, 4 games. You can hit for good average in 4 games. Anyone can, for the most part, any 4-game stretch. But you get my point. It's kind of a skill set, but he's batting 3rd, and there's RBI opportunities there. There's a little bit of pop in that bat, and obviously good batting average. It's a skill set that might be harder to come by. I'm realizing for me, batting average is kind of hard to come by, and Gurriel's been helping. But like guys like him, Garrett Cooper, who bats third every day, those are guys that can help kind of set them and forget them types. Nothing too special there. But yeah, anyway, back to this lineup. Gurriel third, that's going to stick for a little bit. They like him there. They went out and traded him for a reason. What we have here with McCarthy, the reason I brought him up is because McCarthy's still batting lower half of this lineup. Now, he did obviously bat here. He obviously did bat sixth yesterday, but that was with Moreno out. So with Moreno in, he's probably going to be batting seventh. But when you drafted McCarthy this offseason on top, like what, 120, 130 pick, you're expecting somewhere up here. And that's not the case. He's going to have to hit his way up. I wonder how he's doing. Let's look up his stats real quick, shall we? Because McCarthy is a guy that we've seen him. The thing is, everyone's banking on him because he ran hot one time. Everyone's talking about how like he ran hot for half a season because, and then of course the AAA numbers didn't hurt. But prior to this, like hot AAA, hot second half, he's always been like speed first, meh power guy. Like look, like it's just, I mean the power, but also in the minors they played a very friendly confines for power. So the fact that the power was there, that's why you saw the jump there. There you go, there's the jump in ISO. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm not a big McCarthy guy, and you're seeing it. I mean, he doesn't strike out a whole lot. That's normal. He will steal bases. That's also normal. But losing plate appearances, not right now. The contact is not finding its way. Again, very early. Keeping the ball off the ground. That's interesting. But it's not leading to anything. I don't know, I'm just looking at him. I'm like, I'm not really all that. I'm just not a McCarthy guy. I'm trying to find something to like about him. Let's look at the plate skills. Plate skills. Here we go. So still good contact rates. Oh, no, not great actually. So probably they're above average. Above average overall contact, below average zone contact. He's making a lot of contact outside the zone. By making that much contact outside of the zone, McCarthy is prone to weaker contact. Plus the fact that he's not a natural power hitter, he's even more prone to weaker contact the more he's willing to come out of the zone to swing. Does swing a lot in the zone though. Just stuff like that. Just stuff I'm looking at. But again, I just want to emphasize over and over again, we are talking 4 freaking games. It is impossible to judge anybody based on 4 games. A couple notes, a couple things worth noting, I should say, that I don't have visuals for because it's hard. You can't really visualize. So you know what? You guys can see my face for a moment. So something I want to talk about, Yankees lineup. I guess I could have brought that page up, but real quick, Oswaldo Cabrera, not really worried for his playing time. He needs to start hitting a little more consistently. The first game was ugly, but Cabrera he's strung together a couple hits. He might sit today just because he's played 3 straight, I believe. I know he's played 3 straight, but I'm not sure if it's 3 or 4 games. I always forget which teams played 3 or 4. It doesn't matter. My point being is that Cabrera, his playing time has been secured. Hicks hasn't even started a game. They actually started IKF over Hicks. So the fact that they're willing to start IKF over Hicks tells me all I need to know about Hicks. So when Beta returns, Hicks is not really in the picture. Cabrera is going to probably stick to the outfield and move around. But again, we need to see Cabrera get going to secure that spot, make us all feel a little better. And the next one I want to talk about here is Nick Gordon. Gordon started every game, but what you don't see if you don't pay attention, or it's hard to actually pay attention to this stuff, but I'm trying to make an effort to, he got pinch hit for in all 3 games. So Nick Gordon, this guy that I was really in on, I'm still not like dropping him in 15s. In 12s, he's droppable. He was already fringe in 12s to begin with. But Nick Gordon's a guy that we know the power, there's a little power, a little speed, the hit tool's there. I think he'll come around. He's off to a slow start, but how can he come around if he's not being given the opportunity to play full games? 3 games he's been pinch hit for all 3 times by Kyle Farmer from what I was looking at earlier. So that is a guy that is not really doing much. And we're going to go back to I had this stream. Here we go. So we're going to look at some lineups that dropped today and talk about some of these teams. No questions, no problem. If you drop one in, if you go to the YouTube and drop one in, I'll answer it. If not, we'll probably call it, wrap it up after this. As much as I love talking baseball, there's a game on I want to watch. So the Mets, they are what they are. Lefties, you're going to see Tommy Pham. Tommy Pham will also factor as a 4th outfielder. Vogelbach will get the strong side of a platoon. No big deal. Oh, I lied. I have a couple deep league streamers to talk about too, and then I'll be heading out. But other than that, we're on Brett Beatty watch. He should be on your if you're not rostering him, try to make a point to. It's gonna be hard to, like in teams if you have leagues without corner infield type of things. But other than that, Beatty should be universally rostered. I mean, he already is in deeper formats, so it's not really a name that anyone doesn't know about right now. Brian Anderson, if you in deeper leagues, he's already rostered for the most part, but he's going to play just about every day. He's playing third base right now with Luis Urias out 6 to 8 weeks. Not to mention, he was playing right field before that. If Joey Weimer does not show he can hang, which is another guy that was a big waiver wire darling this week. He's played against a lefty and a righty, so there's no real platoon issues there. Concerns Weimer should get full run. The only player here that's going to platoon is probably my boy Bryce Terang, which he has been platooning so far. But now with less options at second base, they do have Brosseau, though. They do have Owen Miller, who they want to get in there against lefties. So we could see him still lose playing time to them, even though I don't believe he should. However, Terang's a guy, batting average, speed, some pop, wouldn't bet on too much, but a guy I like nonetheless. Mitchell's also sat against the lefty, so watch this. If this platoon shows up all of a sudden, I'd be a little surprising, but it's not out of the question. And Winker is in a platoon. He's batting second against righty, so there are plate appearances there and potential for some power, some of that power to show up and all that. But his on-base skill set is what keeps Winker batting top of the order. If he doesn't have it, then he's not going to sustain that spot in the order. The Giants are a pain, but with Bart on the IL, you have Roberto Perez getting run. They did sign Gary Sanchez, so Sanchez will probably get called up to be a depth piece. However, if Blake Sable proves able, that rhymed. Okay, cool. If Blake Sable proves able, he will be the backup catcher and fourth outfield type. Right now, he's getting everyday runs, so for the short term, Blake Sable's still a guy that in two catcher formats, and not only he's a guy who's getting plate appearances, but when Haniger returns, which it doesn't seem like he should be out much longer, maybe another couple weeks before the end of probably mid-April, Sable will now kind of return to a reserve role because he's a lefty. They have are lefty outfielders pretty much, but I think Sable's going to turn into a fourth outfielder / backup catcher type. But if he hits well, the DH, he'll be able to factor into the DH mix and all that too. But just something to think about with Sable. VR is playing third base, not really a guy I'm interested in right now, though. Lamont Wade, kind of underappreciated, dual position eligibility, leads off. Kind of a name to know just for that reason. This lineup's pretty well set. Just watching if Colas is actually gonna platoon. We haven't seen him face a lefty since the one that he sat against, and that's that. Vaughn's playing just about every day. This lineup is a mess. If your name is not TJ Friedel or Jonathan India, you are pretty much platooning right now, outside of obviously Stevenson, Will Myers. Stevenson has played, DH. I think Stevenson even got to start at first base. So they're doing what they said. They're not playing a whole lot at catcher. Stevenson's going to play most of the days between DH and first base and catcher. Myers obviously moves up against lefties, moves down against the righties. But your Jake Fraley's, your Spencer Steer's not in here right now. Oh, there he is. Second. I was saying bats second against lefties. He's off to a pretty strong start in terms of power. Steer's going to play every day at third base because they lack the depth there. Barrero has actually played 3 out of 4, I believe, 2 at shortstop, 1 in center field. So outfield eligibility is possible, but the fact that there's playing time there, now he just needs to start hitting. Miami, this outfield's a mess. I don't like anything about this damn outfield. Like Garcia, for whatever reason, Avisail Garcia, for some reason, still getting a whole bunch of playing time. Makes no sense to me. But De La Cruz getting the start today. This is after 2 straight starts from Jesus Sanchez. It's kind of a little merry-go-round. They're each playing like 2 at a time, sitting, and I don't want any of them. Segura, after starting off the first 2 games batting second, they moved him down after putting Soler back in the 2 spot. Soler's making a ton of hard contact. One of 12 players with at least 6 batted balls of 100 miles per hour or more. Fun fact for the day. He's one of 12. And so Cedric Mullins and Jordan Walker made that list too. Those were the names I was actually trying to highlight, and I realized Soler still got it. Not that I ever really doubted it. Kepler leading off. He hasn't done anything with his opportunity, but he's leading off. The play appearances are there. Larnick, big spring. It's coming over. It's rolling over into the regular season right now. You'd love to see it. Gallo, he's running hot. This is a guy that in Joey Gallo, this is a guy that not only should gain first base eligibility, by the way, but Joey Gallo is a guy that when he runs hot, you ride the hot streaks. When he runs cold, you get off. Right now, he's running hot, at least as of yesterday. And that I don't see how that could change against Johnny Cueto, but maybe Cueto could play those mind games on the mound that he usually does. And again, so usually Bobby Witt, Melendez at the top. We've seen Franmil start a few games, but now Franmil sat, I think, 2 straight as they get Nate Eaton in there. Massey's batting 4. This lineup is terrible. Kyle Isbell is guaranteed to play every day, pretty much. He has been. He should have that spot held down until Drew Waters returns. But Edward Olivares is not a guarantee. Look, he's out today. They are playing guys like Nate Eaton, Jackie Bradley Jr. over Edward Olivares. That should tell you all you need to know about this lineup, unfortunately, and their trust in Olivares. I haven't even looked at how Olivares is performing this spring, or this, I keep calling it spring because it's regular season yet, but I don't know if they believe in him long term. So when Drew Waters returns anyway, that he could be the odd man out. Isbell could be playing strong side with Olivares, which we've seen that platoon in the past as well. But Franmil he's just like an in and out odd factor. And they actually moved Bobby Witt down. I just realized that. I kind of looked over him because I'm looking for what's his face there, and Patino up to second. Interesting. Stacking lefties. So they're stacking lefties at the top against. That's what's happening today. Okay. They're stacking lefties, which gets Franmil out, which gets Olivares out. But this is also something that they will do in general. I don't know. It's again, it's the Royals. It's a mess. It's not. And Berrios, if he can't bounce back with this two-step, then I guess I'm done. And I think that's all lineups for today. A couple deep league guys we'll talk about on the way out. Real quick, 2 deep league hitters, 2 deep league pitchers. Alex Call and Connor Capel. These guys Capel's facing 5 righties. He's a lefty. Good chance he platoons over there in Oakland. Alex Call, good amount of I think there's like 3 or 4 lefties on the schedule for him this week. Gets a series in Colorado, and with Corey Dickerson out, he got the start yesterday. Should start in general. Plus, he gets the good matchups because he is usually on that side of the platoon against lefties anyway. 2 guys that I'm starting, and I'm going to hopefully don't regret it, is going to be Cutter Crawford and Josh Fleming this week. Fleming getting the Nats, Crawford getting Pittsburgh. Possibly Detroit if they give him the 2-step, but there's a chance that he doesn't make that second start. Still a good 1-start option. 2 guys I am streaming in deeper, much deeper formats. With that said, appreciate everyone checking out the stream, podcast, all that good stuff. Subscribe, hit that 5-star rating on your way out if you're listening. Appreciate it, and we will be back later this week. Thanks.